Okay, I'll go ahead and get us started now. Welcome, everyone, to the last but not least session of digitalLIFT's Day of Equity. As you've heard us say earlier throughout the day, this is our third annual Day of Equity, and we're so proud to be able to offer so many relevant and timely webinars and to extend important conversations with you all. Thank you for the great digital inclusion work that you're doing, and thank you so much for taking time out of such a busy week to join us. And we're so delighted to have you in our last session of the day, which is extraordinarily relevant to us all, talking about, are you speaking my language, the importance of plain language, and the importance of a variety of language and cultural responsiveness and awareness. I would like to tell you just a couple of administrative things before I introduce our speakers and we get started. I'm Becca Wright. I'm your host, and on behalf of digitalLIFT, I welcome you. Please feel free to use the chat. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have feedback and observations, please put them in the chat, and you can choose to send them to our co-host, Daphne Chung. She will make sure to relay them to our speakers throughout. So let me go ahead and get us started and share my screen here. And I want to introduce some of our digitalLIFT experts that we have on staff to talk about this issue with you today. We have Ethan Baca, who's our lead digital navigator in Texas. He's located in San Antonio. He works all across South and Central Texas. He's too humble to tell you that he is pursuing a PhD. He has extensive instructional experience. And he is bilingual in Spanish, so much of his teaching is hybrid. We also have Patrick, who is our instructor support manager. He speaks Mandarin and Cantonese. He supports and instructs and helps train all of our instructors on staff here at digitalLIFT, and he has done so for many years. He has extensive training experience, years and years in the field of digital literacy and in cross-cultural and cross-lingual training. Last but not least is Sabrina Tam. She's our Associate Director of Programs. She also trains and speaks fluently Mandarin and Cantonese. She has managed our programs for years in the California region. And she oversees not only our programs, but much of our hybrid instruction. And so without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Sabrina and Ethan and Patrick to lead us in the session today. Sabrina?
Thank you so much, Becca. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Sabrina, and I'm so pleased to be here today. In the past 2 years, we have done a similar section on the topic, but this year it is a little bit different because we're talking about hybrid program in particular. But Becca, if you can click on the next slide. Before we dive into our section, I want to take a moment to share who we are at digitalLIFT, just in case for the audience who just joined us for this session today is the first time you hear about digitalLIFT. So we were established as a nonprofit in 2008, so I think 17 years old. We have a strong physical presence in the San Francisco Bay Area, as well as Central and South Texas. But outside of that, we work with many partners in many other states. Our mission is simple but powerful: to strengthen communities by providing essential tech training and resources. We work very closely with other nonprofits and government agencies to make that mission real. So what we do, we help adults and seniors gain the digital skills they need to use smartphones, computers, and the internet confidently. But even more important is how to use it safely. We also train and support our partner organizations, equipping them, their staff, their volunteers to deliver digital literacy program in their local communities. Our mission is a world where communities thrive through the use of technology, where everyone, regardless of language or background, has the skills to connect, receive resources, and fully participate in today's digital world. Next slide, please. And here's what we're going to cover today. Why this topic matters now, what we mean by cultural responsiveness, the role of plain language and what does that mean, practical strategies for teaching in diverse communities. Then we have two real-life examples of culturally inclusive hybrid training to share, one in Texas and one in San Francisco. Finally, we'll share key takeaways and ideas for moving forward. So we all know the challenge. Digital divide is still very real in many places. A lot of adults, especially immigrants, older adults, and people with disabilities, face barriers not only to technology, but to language, literacy, and accessibility as well. Without access or skills to use the internet, you have limited access to social services because it's very difficult to apply for benefits without the internet. You are at high risk of social isolation because you cannot do video calls with families who may live very far away, or join any online communities like virtual support groups or church groups. You may have barriers to employment, maybe because you cannot search or cannot apply for jobs online. And you face educational inequality because you will be missing out on tons of online learning opportunities if you don't get online. You will be less engaged civically because you cannot access online news, voice your concerns, or give support to your local representatives. And at digitalLIFT, we see every day how plain language and cultural responsiveness can bridge these gaps. When our instructions is clear, relatable, and culturally aware, learners gain confidence, and that's when true digital inclusion becomes possible. So our goal is to make sure everyone, regardless of language or background, can participate fully in today's digital world. Next slide, please. When we say culturally responsive digital skills training, we mean teaching that goes far beyond translation. It's about honoring the learner's identity and the lived experience. We don't just translate English materials into different languages. We adapt the examples, visuals, and cultural references to make the training meaningful for our learners. For example, when teaching how to use YouTube to a group of Chinese older adults, we demonstrate by searching for a classic Chinese singer that the learners grew up listening to, making the lesson so much more enjoyable, engaging, and relevant to the learners. And this approach helps build trust and connection with the learners, which are just as important as the technical skills that you are teaching to the learners. Next slide, please. Plain language. It plays a huge role in accessibility. However, what we mean by plain language is not about simplifying the content. It's about making it clear, direct, and easy to understand for all literacy levels. For example, instead of saying navigate to the search bar of your browser, a lot of jargons for a beginner technology learner, I might say, click the white box at the top where you can type in the web address. And instead of saying create a new tab, I might say, click the small plus sign at the top to open a new page. Small changes like that can make a big difference in the classroom. When the learners understand instructions right away, they feel more successful. And that success keeps them coming back to our sections to learn more week by week, day by day, month by month, year by year. I'll pass it to Ethan next to go over strategies for culturally responsive instruction.
So the best way I can describe it, being somebody who's Mexican American and from South Texas that speaks Spanish, which is 1,000% different than the Spanish spoken in Central Mexico, which is 1,000% different from the Spanish spoken in Puerto Rico, and even more different from the Spanish spoken in California, is to be culturally responsive. We need to just be aware of our audiences. There's no one universal language, sadly. We each have all of our own colloquialisms. So this means that we need to meet the learners where they are. If I'm with a group of Puerto Ricanos, I'm going to use Boricua references, just like Sabrina said. We want to make sure that the learners feel comfortable and confident with what we're talking about. The way I see it, it's like going to a Mexican restaurant. I'm from the border here in South Texas, which is northern Mexico, where this food is very meat heavy and spicy. But I might go to a Mexican restaurant in another part of town that has different types of food, which is not going to be as hot. And it's still the same country and it's still similar, but it's not the same. So we need to have that awareness. For the flexibility in terms of remote, hybrid, and in-person models, it's important for us to be aware that maybe people won't understand us because what if I'm too far away and you can't hear me too well? What if I'm speaking too fast? What if I'm speaking too soft or too slow? We want to be accessible because we want to make sure that we're speaking clearly, slowly, and doing our best to enunciate. Roles of partnerships, these are our best friends. Patrick goes to the YMCA in San Francisco and has a great relationship with them because they're the ones who bring in the learners. They're the ones that know the community. In Texas, here in San Antonio, we have a network of community health workers or CHWs that are the boots on the ground that help bring those resources out to the public. And it's important for for the learners to have that confidence because they don't know who I am. I don't know who you are. So we want the learners to come to us and feel confident and comfortable speaking with us. One of the best ways that you can be culturally relevant is bully yourself a little bit, tease yourself a little bit. I am Mexican American and Puerto Rican. So when I get frustrated, I speak very quickly. And my Mexican counterparts here in Texas don't understand me. And I say, hey, I'm sorry, the Boricua in me came out. Give me a couple of seconds to chill. Bear with me, and then we'll get back on track. So we want to make sure that we're relatable, is my main point. Volunteers and bilingual staff are extremely important because we want people that speak the language to be there. I don't speak Mandarin or Cantonese, but Patrick does. And if Patrick is there to help me, great. Because if not, I'm going to be sitting there just smiling and, yeah, that's cool. So next, I want to talk to y'all about some experiences I've had with ESL populations here in Central and South Texas. If you can go to the next slide, please. So one of our wonderful partners is Global Refuge here in San Antonio. They work with refugees from all over the world. Specifically, we have been partnering with them to work with Pashtun refugees, Dari refugees from Afghanistan, and Venezuelan refugees. When we're there, we have an interpreter available because I don't speak Pashto or Dari, but I speak Spanish. My first class was a huge game of telephone, and this made it very frustrating because we had all four languages at once. So it's me doing the presentation in English, having somebody translate it into Pashto, and then somebody else translate it from Pashto to Dari, and then somebody else translate it to Spanish because they had a Spanish translator there who wanted to translate the things. And it was a lot of back and forth, which quadrupled the time for something that would have easily taken about 30 minutes. So I was there for about 2 hours, give or take. This is extremely important when you're coordinating any kind of workshop. You want to try and keep it focused on one language. And the biggest reason is we don't want people to be isolated. I've had a class where everybody speaks English except for one person. And you could tell that that individual didn't feel comfortable because I would explain everything to the group in English, and then I'd go to him and say in Spanish the exact same thing. But then everybody else was asking me questions in English, and I would respond to them in English, and there'd be a huge backup. So you want to do your best to avoid multiple languages in one group setting. For engagement, you want to ask a lot of questions. Be culturally relevant, like we had stated earlier. When I talk to my tias, when I'm going to the classes, I always tell them I love mole. That's how I judge a Mexican restaurant. If it's as good as my grandmother's, it's a good Mexican restaurant. So I ask, what are your favorite recipes? How do you do something? In your part of the country, how do you use this same spice that we use up north? And the main thing that we've learned through this is through these relationships that we've built and doing our best to understand each other's cultures. Because like I said, regionally, even from San Antonio to the Rio Grande Valley where I'm from, it's a completely different culture, but we have some similarities. We use those similarities to make ourselves feel comfortable and confident and build those relationships so that way we can have more successful outcomes and make sure that more people know what we're doing. And that's how we learn. I always tell my students and learners, if I mess up, tell me, so that way I can be better for y'all in the future. So now I want to pass it on to Patrick, who will talk to y'all about his experience in San Francisco.
Thank you, Ethan. I will continue for the case study number 2. This is the San Francisco China YMCA, Chinatown YMCA. And actually, this is a little bit different setup with the events one, because normally we do the in-person or the virtual training. But for this training session or workshop, we are doing the hybrid, which means we have a speaker who present the presentation in virtual remotely. And also we have other support staff or volunteer assisting in person. And why we would like to do like set the setup like this, because some of the site which is not really close to the areas which our instructor can reach out to. Therefore, our instructor in different language can only do the presentation in virtual. But we would like to assign our staff to help in person so that our audience or the older adults can get their support in the classroom. So next slide. But because the hybrid setup is a little bit complicated, so we have to do some preparation for that. For the on-site staff or volunteers, because for the class we do before is the Cantonese or the Mandarin class, we will have to make sure we have some staff volunteers who can speak Cantonese or Mandarin on site. Because they are very important to communicate with the staff over there, and also the older adults, the learners, they make sure they can help them on site. Yeah, because many of the Chinese, they can only speak Cantonese or Mandarin. They cannot even speak a little bit English. Therefore, it's so important that we have some helpers, staff or volunteers who are helping them on site. That's one part. The another part is about the equipment. Yeah, because we do the hybrid one, and also we set up the meeting on Zoom meeting. Therefore, before the workshop start, we have to make sure our on-site helpers should go to the site earlier, as earlier as possible, to make sure every equipment goes well, like the projector or if there is a TV, we have to make sure there is a laptop which have good connection with the projector or the TV. And also because the room, the on-site room may be a little bit larger, therefore we have to make sure that there is a good or high quality speaker or amplifier to make sure every older adult on-site can hear the voice clearly. And that's very important. That's a little bit different from the in-person setup. Yeah, because if we do the in-person training, we can just bring the microphone, and then they can hear more easily. But yeah, but because that is the hybrid one, we just present our resources on Zoom meeting or virtually. Therefore, we have to make sure the speakers loud enough so that everyone can hear about that. And also, I want to emphasize about the virtual tools, which is the Zoom meeting or Google Meet, because some of our maybe some of us maybe consider which tools is better for using the virtual presentation. And for my experience, Zoom is a little bit better than the Google Meet. The reason because we can do some annotation through Zoom meeting like this. I can circle some wording when I do the presentation, even though they cannot see my face in person, but they can still see what I'm going to talk about, which is the Google Meet cannot do that. This is one part. And for the another part, because with the Zoom meeting, I can present the device like iPad, iPhone, or even Android device pretty easier. And with the annotation as well. Therefore, if anyone would like to do the hybrid workshop or virtual workshop, I will highly recommend that you will stick to Zoom meeting. Yeah. So next slide. Okay. So during the meeting, because we are hybrid ones, therefore we have different role during the meeting. And for the presenter, which is the remote one, the clear instruction is very important. Of course, with the annotation, yeah, because some of our older adults cannot just follow the words pretty clearly, and or they may have some handouts because sometimes we may prepare some handouts for them, and if they can see our annotation, they can underline some keywords or some key explanation on their handouts. So that's very important. And on the other hand, I because that is the Cantonese or the Mandarin workshop. So that's very important for the presenters to stick to the language, even though, because for me, even though I speak Cantonese in the workshop, sometimes I may feel like, oh, maybe there's some wording I can accidentally speak in English, some keywords. Okay, so I will try my best to speak every word in the same language so that they cannot feel confused. And of course, plain language, that is important, which is Sabrina just explained before. You have to use very simple, clear, and the language they understand so that because we are teaching some new and high tech or some technologies things, and some of the terms are maybe very difficult for them to understand. Like if I talk about AI in Chinese, they may curious what is AI. So therefore, I in the workshop, I always use different daily life example to let them understand more about some very uh, just very new or difficult terms. For example, if I when I teach the communication part, the daily communication apps, normally in America, all of them use email, but for Chinese, they didn't use email. Therefore, when I would like to introduce the communication apps, I would maybe, of course, I can still, I will introduce email, but on the other hand, I will use another apps like WeChat, which is they use most likely daily, and let them know there is a similar things, but maybe just a little bit set up is different, or of course, the usage is a little bit different, but somehow they're similar in the purpose. So we have to stick to the culture of the clients or the audience, and then let them understand easily with some daily life examples. And on the other hand, because our audience is older adults, therefore they when they learn about the digital things, they may rather want to be more practical. Yeah, because if I talk too much about what is AI or what is the definition of AI, they may feel like, oh, this is not really related to them. But instead of that, then maybe during the workshop, I would rather introduce different AI apps. For example, use ChatGPT to create an email and just show the demonstration by the iPad to them, or just teach them how to write some prompt to create a image which is the different style that will let them easily to learn the new things and arouse their interest to use the apps by themselves. Yeah, because that is very important. After, if they learn something, they will use them after. Yeah, that is very important. And for the another part is about the on-site helpers, because we have the on-site helper is very important to make sure the hybrid workshop goes well. Yeah, because they have to make sure the equipment on site function properly, and also they have to keep an eye on the audience. Yeah, because if you invite a lot of learners sit down on in a room, and the presenter is in virtual, actually, for the remote speaker, he cannot see everyone on the screen, and they don't know whether they are paying attention to the workshop. So the on-site helpers is very important to keep them focused, keep them pay attention to the meeting, and also keep quiet during the workshop. And that's very important, yeah, because if someone start to check with each other, that means, yeah, that is a little bit interrupt to the workshop. So yeah, so our helper they can look around and see if there is any incident happen. And of course, there is another backup. Yeah, because for the remote one, that he may accidentally log out from the meeting because of the internet issue, etc. So the online helper is always ready to maybe replace the speaker In case the speaker cannot continue, then the on-site helper can present the rest of the part in case there is some accident. Yeah. So okay. So next slides, please. And okay, if the presentation goes well, and we have other things we have to do after the presentation, yeah, because for the workshop we normally do the 1 hour workshop presentation, and another hour we will provide them some Q&A session, which is our on-site staff may gather some questions from the audience, and they will pass the question to the speaker and let the speaker answer anything which is related to the topic. And so you can see this picture. This is an AI generated image, and you can see if I do the presentation on site, and then some of the staff here may help the audience right there and then pass the question to the presenter. And that is what we are going to we did in the past in the workshop. And also, yeah, some of the audience may need some individual guidance. For example, they don't know how to log in some of the account, or they would like to create the email address, etc. So the in person, the on-site staff can help them in personally. Yeah, that those things which the speaker cannot help with. Yeah. And the most important part, I believe, is about the continued learning and support. Yeah, because normally after each workshop, of course they will learn something, but after that they may forget about it, or if they when they go back home, they may feel some confusion. And so that for digitalLIFT, we will provide weekly virtual training on Zoom for them. And of course, our on-site staff will teach them how to join those kind of Zoom meeting during the workshop, so that if our learners they have interest to learn more about different topic, they can just come every week, or they can join for the Chinese one. We have a social media group. We invite them to the social media group, and in that group they can share different kind of ideas, or some of them may even post some question or daily life things on the social media group, and then yes, that will support them in daily life with different technical issues. Yeah, so I think that is very important for the learners and learning. So I believe that is my part, and I will pass the time to Sabrina for the next slide.
Yes. Thank you, Patrick and Ethan. So I think I'm not sure if anyone posted any questions. Daphne or Becca, do you see any questions about our hybrid models?
No questions yet if you would like to add some more information.
Yeah, I was curious. So Patrick, what are the topics that you have taught remotely to the learners?
Okay. For the remote one, I taught Google Drive, the virtual drive, and also the AI one I taught yesterday, and also the photo editing as well. Yeah, some of
When you
those
say
kind of
photo editing, you
yeah
said?
photo editing, yeah, some kind of like that.
And do you think that some topics may be easier to teach virtually than others?
Yeah, I believe if we would like to present the how to work with some apps or devices, it may be easier to do the presentation through the Zoom meeting. Yeah, because even though we do the in-person training, we had to present our device just through. If we hold the device on our hand, it's hard for us to present how to work with some different kind of device or how to set up different things or accounts. But if we do it on the Zoom meeting, then we can step by step and present the device easily. Yeah, and do the annotation, of course. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ethan, I have a question for you. Because we mentioned that, it's better not to mix languages in one setting or in one classroom. But, what if like cost-wise or budget-wise, it's just not feasible for a program to teach someone that speak the language one-on-one, and we have to group people together? What would be a better approach, or do you have any other suggestions?
In the case where you can't do a one-on-one class with somebody who speaks a different language, compared to the group, sorry, I have a guest that decided to jump on my lap right now. If it is a necessity to have 2 or 3 different languages, definitely volunteers and staff are going to be necessary. And it has to be staff that speaks that person's language. So if you're going to have me go in there and do something in English, but there's going to be one person that speaks Portuguese, we would need a Portuguese volunteer with us to help facilitate that so that we're not just, they don't feel neglected and they have somebody with them the entire time.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the audience?
I have one. Just before we start to wrap up, for any of you, or maybe even all of you, you work in a variety of languages and you work at opposite ends of the country, essentially, with different populations. You've told us about a lot of strategies today that apply across the board. Not to end on a negative, but can you end on a tip that's like, hey, don't do this one thing? We commonly see people do this, like, don't do this. Can you leave us with any last tips? And if you're not comfortable with the negative, you can definitely leave us with just one more positive thought.
Maybe I can speak a little bit first about the Chinese group. And from my teaching experience, I would not just expect them know everything. That just expect them because for us, we of course we know very well in different digital devices, but for the older adults, actually although they may have high education, but they didn't just touch anything about the mobile phone, etc. So just that, so we have to encourage them to which they are doing pretty well with some, even though very simple tasks, and don't and build their confidence, and don't let them think that, oh, that is only a very easy thing that maybe discourage them. Just give those kind of words, the negative words, to them. Yeah.
So I will want to add to that, like, it's just don't make assumptions, right, about your learner's skill level.
Yeah.
Don't think that like a simple thing, maybe you say like you can just download the app from the App Store and assume that they know what that means. They may
Yeah.
not know what an app store is or where to find it or how to download an app, all of this.
Mhm.
So just make awareness that and don't make assumptions. You may have to go explain a little bit more. What do you mean by App Store? That may be another whole new lesson for the
Yeah.
training, another workshop. But still,
Mhm.
like, yeah, just don't make the assumptions that everyone knows what all these tech terminologies means. Ethan,
Uh,
were you going to try to say something?
mhm. And to add to that real quick, the assumptions can go the other way too. Just because somebody is younger looking or they seem a little more tech savvy doesn't mean that they are. So
Mhm.
you don't want to walk into a group of young people and be like, all right, y'all, open up ChatGPT and ask it to write you an email. Because some people are going to look at you like, what the heck is a ChatGPT? We want to be aware of people's levels. My biggest thing, because it's happened to me a couple of times already, is when you coordinate a class and you have an instructor come by or a volunteer, you can do it yourself, make sure that the information, the language information is clear. Because we have had a case where we had somebody that doesn't speak Spanish go into a group that was Spanish speaking. Um, to put a positive note on it, because we have our handy dandy phones and whatnot, we were able to use ChatGPT and Google Translate to help us do it through voice. It's not 1,000% accurate, but it's a tool that we have access to that we can definitely use. So that's my sage wisdom. Please don't do your best not to mix languages, and don't be surprised you're going to teach in Mandarin today. It's like, oh, I don't speak Mandarin today. So we'll figure it out, I guess.
Yeah, another thing that I would add is even they speak the same language or similar language as Ethan mentioned before. Like, for example, they speak Mandarin, um, but they could be from different region. Even the same country or different countries that speak Mandarin, and there are cultural differences between different regions. So yeah, again, don't mix those assumptions that even if they look alike or they speak the same language, there could be some very subtle differences. And the approach that I usually use is, you don't have to know every single culture or differences, but just be more aware of, there's potentially differences, and then you try to cover from different angle, use different examples. So preparation, do a lot of that. So when you teach a topic, maybe research it. What's the term to say in for people from this region versus that? So yeah, usually I would do something like that, like to prep, lesson prep is to research what my audience will be from, and then what are the terminologies that they tend to use.
Thank you all for these tips. I was just thinking when we were talking about the importance of plain language in and of itself, whether across different languages or just in one. My entire background is in teaching, and I was a professor at college for many years, and I taught writing. Um, and I used to sit down with students and we would go over papers or we would go over concepts. And one time I was sitting with someone and we were talking very specifically about a paper that she was working on and some problem issues. And so we worked through some of them. And I said, before we finished, I said, so what are you going to do now? And she said, well, after this, I've got to go pick up my daughter. And then I thought we could go grab dinner and we would. And what I had meant was like, what are you going to do now? Like next steps on your paper? So even in the old English, even in the same language, just being a little more precise, I should have said, now that we've talked about this, what do you think your next steps on the paper are? So
I see.
thank you all so much for these tips. And for our valued audience
Becca,
members, oh yeah, Sabrina.
I think I have one more slide.
Oh,
Is it-
okay.
So I can do, yeah, I wanted do a key success factors, just three takeaways for the audience today. Um, so use bilingual instructors if you can. And if you don't have someone in person, do it remotely if possible. And then use closely inclusive curriculum. That's very, very important because you want to make other examples and relevant to the audience that will make them more engaged, and your training will just be so much more effective. And then partnerships across regions or states even. So I want to say that if you're at a different state where we currently digitalLIFT doesn't serve in person, but let's connect after today and then see how we may be able to support you with maybe a hybrid session, or we also have training your trainer or training your volunteers to help them become comfortable and how they can teach your communities these technology skills.
I'm sorry about that, Sabrina. Anything else?
If you click one more time, that will bring up. So my call to action is let's make adult digital literacy training speak every learner's language, not just linguistically, but culturally and emotionally too. That's it.
Well, we can't end on a better note than that, except for giving away more materials, everyone. Here is contact info for the folks today. Ethan at digitallift.org, Patrick at digitallift.org, Sabrina at digitallift.org, and I'll add one more, Lift, L-I-F-T, at digitallift.org. If you have questions that didn't make their way into the chat, especially if you have questions about all of the different languages that we do translate into and that we already have readily available at digitalLIFT, which are several, I think it's like 8 or 9 right now, please contact us about that. And here is our giveaway for today. As I mentioned earlier this morning, we're so proud to launch 3 new workshops. We just launched these this week. These are only $75, and they provide everything necessary to teach a fully comprehensive workshop in a variety of areas. And the one that we're going to give away today is Smartphone Fundamentals Workshop. This is a $75 value. And what I'd like to do is give it away to 4 people instead of 3, because this is our last one. And wait, after I announce the names, I'm going to announce another special announcement. So please hang in here. So for the workshop giveaways, the Smartphone Fundamental Workshop, we will email the following folks next week with enrollment information for free in this workshop. And I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Carlos Maldonado, Zulma Arobo, Ashlyn Girth, and Gretchen Kolderup. So all 4 of you, congratulations, hot off the presses, coming your way. And I recognize so many names from the sessions today that if you have gone to all of our sessions, we will give you additional giveaways next week. And here's your homework. If you've attended all of our sessions today, email lift at digitallift.org and say, attention, Becca. Hey, Becca, attention, Becca. Subject line, hey, Becca. I attended all the sessions. And I will be contacting you separately to make sure that you get a special giveaway as well. Because we really appreciate all of your enthusiasm and all of your partnership, conversation, networking, friendship, allyship in the work that we do. A special thank you to Ethan and Patrick and Sabrina for capping off a very fun day with some important strategies that we should all employ whenever we can in our instruction and in our communication. And a thank you to everybody for joining our 3rd annual Day of Equity. Have a great day and have a great week, everyone. We'll see you at our webinar at the end of the month.